And this is Jeff Jackson, Director, Finance and Treasurer of the City of Mississauga, regarding the motion to change the apportionment of the regional levy, which relates to item 19.1. Welcome, Jeff.
And I do feel it for you today. Good afternoon, Chair and members of Council. There were a few of us who were here back in 1998 when property tax reform took place. Section 310 of the Municipal Act was introduced in that year, which allows the Region Appeal to delegate the setting of tax ratios to its local municipalities. Tax ratios, as you recall, represent the tax burden for each property tax class relative to the residential tax class. For example, a ratio of 1.4 for the commercial tax class would indicate a commercial tax rate of 1.4 times that of the residential tax class. Through delegation, the lower tiers become responsible for setting the regional tax rate and not the region, so a mechanism is required to allocate the regional budget to each lower tier municipality's taxpayers. This is done through an apportionment plan. Delegation of tax ratios must be approved by the region and all of the lower tiers, as well as by the Minister of Finance through regulation. The apportionment plan is approved by the region, and this is done in April of each year in time to allow the lower tiers to bill final taxes. Back in 1998, there were two features of Section 310 that interested Council and caused them to vote in favor of delegation and an apportionment plan. The first was the ability to set tax ratios, since these can drive economic development if a council chooses to reduce the tax burden on commercial and industrial properties, as Brampton and Caledon have done. The second was a desire to tie regional services to service levels or consumption by municipality. Council approved the two largest regional costs, being police and waste management, both being allocated on a basis other than property assessment. Waste was allocated based upon tonnage for each municipality until 2010, when it was changed to households to simplify the process. OPP was allocated to Caledon since they were the user of this service, and Peel Regional Police to Brampton and Mississauga based on assessment between the two municipalities. On the slide above, you can see the mathematical calculation, and this is from the apportionment plan approved by Council on April 11th. You will notice that the cost of Peel Regional Police is funded by Mississauga at 62.66% and Brampton at 37.34%. The cost of the OPP at $12,168,968 is borne by Caledon, and you can remember that 12 million number because you'll see it in a second. I should note that if there was no apportionment plan, Caledon taxpayers would pay $14.3 million more for police services, while Brampton taxpayers would pay $5.3 million less, and Mississauga taxpayers $8.9 million less. Caledon gets a great deal, and this resolution that's on the floor today would not change that. The OPP costs Caledon $494 per property versus Peel Regional Police at $912 per property for Brampton and $1,226 for Mississauga. So how are the OPP costs allocated to Caledon? As shown in last week's presentation by the Caledon Treasurer, Heather Hare, the OPP costs are based upon roughly 50% of base service costs, plus 50% of calls per service, plus additional services contracted by Caledon, plus a little bit for their assets and stuff. The same or a similar type of formula could be used to allocate Peel Regional Police costs between Brampton and Mississauga. On this slide presented by Ms. Hare, the 2019 costs amount to $12,168,000, which is the same number shown on my first slide on apportionment as being allocated solely to Caledon. There is some confusion, or there was some confusion last week, as to Ms. Hare's response as to how the cost is allocated to Caledon taxpayers. That response was based upon assessment, which is true. Each taxpayer receives a tax bill which contains a Region Appeal levy amount that is allocated to that property based upon assessment. However, the amount allocated to Caledon taxpayers by the region is based upon the OPP formula. And page 6.1.3 on your budget agenda from this morning also says the same thing. So in summary, costs are allocated to Caledon through the OPP formula and then to individual taxpayers by assessment. Based upon the 2010 precedent which modified the manner in which waste costs were allocated by municipality, the Cost of Peel Regional Police can and should be revised in the apportionment formula. This concludes my delegation, Mr. Chair, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
And there are Councillor Parrish.
I would like to move up 19.1, and I would like to move the motion right now.
Do you have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Sato. Very good. Can we get the motion up on the screen, or everybody has it in front of them, either or? Before I go to Councillor Sato. Councillor Sato.
We've added a fourth paragraph.
Oh, go ahead, please.
And whereas the budget allocations for Peel, sorry, where is it? There it is. That the region municipality of Peel enact a bylaw in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to apportion the upper tier levies for police services for the year 2021 to Mississauga and Brampton using the OPP funding model.
Very good. Councillor Sato.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm pleased to second this. I think it's very important that we finally fix this inequity. You'll recall years ago when we had equalized assessment and how difficult it was to get it through, and the millions of dollars that Mississauga was paying that we shouldn't have, and it took a lot of work to get that through. We still lost millions of dollars, and you know, we need to be fair with how we're paying for costs in the City of Mississauga. So I'm pleased to second this.
Thank you, Councillor Raz. Sorry, Councillor Raz?
That's okay.
Okay, Councillor Sato I've dealt with, so I'll go to Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you. Can I see the full motion? I think, you know, from the City of Brampton and some of the conversation we've had, so it seems that you want to use an OPP model, a costing model, and from our understanding, there are other policing models out there for us to try to achieve, you know, an equitable system that you're thriving for. I just think it's very premature for us to be applying an OPP model on our system when we don't know if that's the best policing and cost recovery model out there. And if we're going to do real due diligence, I think that we need time to really look at all the different models, even the studies from Ernst & Young. It's not a complete study. There's a lot of data missing. There's a lot of information that's required. I don't know if the delegation from Mississauga wants to comment on that, but certainly you would confirm that what Ernst & Young says is that further analysis is required, especially on some of the drivers. So again, I think understanding that Mississauga's, there seems to be an appetite to feel that you have more of a cost burden. But when we're looking at a police model that serves across the region, this is not about, you know, how do we identify where there's more crime, you know, and the shifts of crime. One day, you know, you'll see in Brampton, and then after there seems to be a shift in crime, and the stats say there's more in Mississauga. If you look at the variable as well in terms of, you know, we've talked about that you have Peel Police pays for marine policing or for the water and policing there. Those are variables that Brampton don't have. So I just think this is very premature. I would be more comfortable if we looked at other and researched other costing models, and if we started to understand, because I think there's still gaps of information here. So there's no way I could support it. I would suggest even, you know, councillors around this table really consider what we're doing here, and to arbitrarily apply an OPP model, that is not the all end of the models. So there's no way I would accept this, and I'm kind of disappointed that this was brought here in this way.
Thank you, Councillor Raz.
Hi, Mr. Chair. Thank you, and I would like to call the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to vote on whether they'll call.
Yes, that's the first point. I've had a motion to call the question. Yeah, I realize, but I've got to deal with a motion to call the question. No. I've got to deal with that motion before me, so at this time, I have to deal with the motion to call the, yeah, it's been moved by Councillor Ras, seconded by Councillor, Councillor, I saw McFadden first. Okay.
I don't have quorum.
Oh, no, I have quorum. I don't have a Brampton councillor, I think, yeah. That's just explain the difference. We have enough numbers, but we have to have one from every municipality, just so we're clear to the audience. Madam Clerk, I'm in your charge. Do you ring the bells? Yeah, I think you should ring the bells. I think that would be helpful. It's what we normally do. Yeah. Is there some reason, I normally hear the bells and I don't hear them? They're going there, but okay.